The sky over Del Caris was painted in screaming red and ash as the evacuation alarms howled through the atmosphere. And I stumbled through the scorched plains looking for survivors. My boots melted slightly with every step, and the taste of burning ozone clawed at my throat. I had never meant to land here, not like this, not alone. But the distress signal was human, coded, and I had to see if there was anyone left. That was when I felt it. The small, trembling grip that closed around my fingers from behind. I turned, and there she was, skin the color of twilight, eyes wide and burning with desperation. Her voice barely reached my ears over the rumble of collapsing metal as she said, "You're the only one who can save my mom." And before I could respond, she pulled me forward into the wreckage with strength no child should have had. She ran like someone who knew where hope still lived, dragging me through shattered corridors of what must have once been a thriving alien city, now nothing more than a skeleton of melted stone and warped alloy. Her small feet never faltered, even when the ceiling above groaned or the ground beneath us trembled and cracked. Her name was Ellery. I learned this only because she whispered it between breaths, and I knew better than to ask questions when her focus was razor sharp. Finally, we reached a bunker door, sealed tight and covered in ancient glyphs. She placed her hand on the panel and it hissed open, revealing a room pulsing with dim blue light, and inside, laying on a floating slab, was a woman covered in pale scales and sweat, limbs trembling with every breath, and eyes shut so tightly it hurt to look. Ellery rushed to her side, sobbing softly as she said, "She's fading, and you, Ray, human, and that means you can help her." Because I saw it in the stories. I saw what your kind can do. I approached with caution, not out of fear, but because I felt something shift in the air. The way the pressure bent around her body, the way the lights dimmed slightly with each heartbeat, as if the room itself mourned her suffering. She was not just anyone, I realized. She was someone vital, someone central to whatever was left of this world. Ellery clung to her side, whispering ancient words in a language I couldn't understand. And then her gaze turned to me, pleading again, not with tears, but with that raw ache that only someone truly alone can summon. I asked her what she meant, what she thought I could do, and she looked at the wound pulsing on her mother's side and said, "It feeds on despair, and your kind is different. You fight it. You burn too brightly for it to hold on." I didn't understand, but I knelt anyway and placed my hand on the queen's skin. And something happened. The darkness recoiled, the air warmed just slightly, and Ellery's breath hitched in awe. The moment stretched into something sacred and terrifying as the queen's body jolted once, and I felt a surge of energy leap from her skin into mine. It was pain and light and memory, all wrapped in a single pulse. And I saw flashes of her life, not in images, but in feelings. Her joy when Ellery was born, her agony when the bombs fell, her unbreakable will to shield her people until the last breath. She had taken it all into herself, like a vessel meant to suffer so others might live. And now she had nothing left to give except a final prayer whispered into the universe for someone, anyone, to reach her. I realized then that Ellery's belief was more than desperation. It was a truth older than science, something primal. She had seen the stories of humans fighting through hellfire and standing when galaxies bowed, and she believed I was one of them. So I kept my hand there even as my skin burned, even as my heart thundered, and I whispered, "I am here, and I will not let you go." Her body stilled for a moment, and then the wounds pulsed once more, but slower, as if confused and uncertain. And then came the voice, not hers, not Ellery's, but something inside my mind, a connection forged by pain and hope. And the queen said, "You are not what I expected, and yet you are enough." I could barely stay upright as my body shook under the weight of whatever she was pouring into me: light, memory, energy. It passed like fire through my veins, and I screamed, not from agony, but from something deeper, something being rewritten at the core of who I was. Ellery held her mother's hand and watched, And I saw her smile for the first time, a small fragile thing full of hope. The queen opened her eyes glowing faintly and met her daughter's gaze. And then mine, and she said, "Thank you." Though the words came without sound, the meaning struck like thunder, and I knew in that moment she would live, because Ellery had believed and I had answered. They did not crown me or carve statues or write epics of what happened in that bunker, but when I walked out with Ellery and her mother behind me, the city felt different somehow, lighter, as if the soil itself had breathed out relief. The queen would need time, and so would I. But the sickness was gone. The shadow that fed on despair had broken its teeth on something it could not consume. And that was the bond between a daughter and a mother, and the stranger who refused to look away. Ellery never let go of my hand, not even when we found the surviving enclave, not even when they looked at me with suspicion. And she simply said, "He saved her," and that was enough for them and for me. And sometimes at night, when the stars burn bright and the wind sounds almost like words, I remember her hand tugging mine and that voice saying, "You're the only one who can save my mom." And I understand now that it wasn't prophecy or magic. It was love and faith, and the refusal to let hope die. The sun on Del Caris rose differently now, softer, gentler, no longer obscured by the thick smoke of war or the flickering light of failing defenses. Instead, it cast long golden shadows over the growing camps, where survivors emerged from their hiding places, blinking into a dawn they never thought they would see. Ellery ran through the open square laughing, chasing a fluttering shard of reflective metal that caught the wind like a leaf. Her mother walked slowly, still pale but upright, her steps sure, her presence undeniable. She was no longer a dying queen, but a living symbol, not of power, but of survival and resilience and rebirth. I stayed not because I was asked to, but because I could not leave a place that had given me something I had not known I was missing. A reason not just to run from my past, but to run towards something better. I began helping rebuild, laying down beams, reactivating old tech, teaching the young how to solder circuits, and how to stand tall when the galaxy seems too wide and cold to hold you. Ellery would sit nearby, drawing shapes in the dirt with a stick, and she once asked me if Earth had skies like this, and I told her no, not like this. This sky had been earned. This sky was born from a child's courage and a mother's will, and the stubborn refusal of a human to let another story end in silence. And one day, when the wind was kind and the sky was clear, Ellery looked up at me and said, "You didn't just save her, you saved me too." And I knew then that no matter what stars we walked under, no matter how far from Earth I wandered, I had found a home that could never be taken from me, because I had helped build it with my own two hands. And a promise I kept in the heart of ruin, where love had never truly died.